Welcome back to the comment response segment on my channel. In today's video, I've got a very interesting topic. This is a common problem amongst men. I also go through this myself, so I want to share exactly what works for me. And by the way, if you'd like me to make a video, if you have a question or you have something that you'd like to share with me and I can make a video out of it, please reach out on Instagram, send me a direct DM. That's the best way to get through to me. Or you can even drop your comments down below or even send an email. Links in the description below. Let's get straight into today's video. So one of my subscribers commented on one of my recent videos and he said, bro, please make a video on how to surpass lust. And I thought this was an excellent idea. As I said, this is a common problem, whether men want to admit it or not. No one's perfect. And at the end of the day, we need to understand why we're doing this. So why do men fall into that temptation of lust? It comes down to this. We fall into the temptation of lust when we lack purpose, direction, and we're out of alignment. Because when you don't have purpose, your mind searches for dopamine and this modern world feeds it. Think about it. Instagram, OnlyFans, porn, in real life, women wearing provocative clothing, right? It's everywhere. And every time we indulge in this, it weakens our masculine spirit. But let's even take it one step further. Think about your lower self versus your higher self, right? The spiritual battle between the two. When you're operating through your lower self, I like to say that's when you're consumed by the devil. You're driven by lust, greed, ego, instant gratification, and you're vibrating at a lower frequency, right? Every time you indulge in this low frequency behavior, you're going to feel guilt, shame, desire, and that's when you start to feel bad, right? That's when you start to feel shit about yourself. So you got to understand that this lower self is not serving you, all right? And when you start to tap into your higher self, that's where you're driven by faith, discipline, purpose, and love, right? So it's almost like night and day. Your lower self is the selfish, perpetual pleasure-chasing version, right? That identity. When you're operating on that higher frequency plane, you start to experience peace, gratitude, self-love, and you're no longer selfish in your desires, right? You get yourself right and you feel like helping others. You become a role model, right? So when you operate through that higher self, that's when you start to make the right decisions. That's when you don't start getting driven by greed, temptations, right? That's when lust becomes controllable. And for me personally, I used to live in my lower self. I used to always indulge in porn, lust, women, validation, and it killed my confidence. It drained my energy and frequency. So this is something that I have been through for the majority of my life. I still go through this today, but I'm going to share with you soon how I actually deal with this, right? Because I'd be lying to you if I said I also wasn't tempted. So I've personally been through this myself, and ever since I rebuilt myself into a 2.0 version, right, tapped into that higher version of myself, a man guided by faith, discipline, and purpose, that's when I felt in alignment. That's when I was able to make the right decisions. That's when I would think about the consequences of my actions. And when you focus on rebuilding that 2.0 masculine identity, understand that the 2.0 version of yourself doesn't chase lust, he channels it. He channels it into building his body, commanding his mind, knowing who he is and what he stands for, living by values, having a moral compass, having the right routines, the right daily habits that serve him, having your mind, body, and spirit aligned so you can vibrate on a higher vibrational frequency plane. When you operate this way, lust cannot touch you, right? When you have this purposeful way of living, because everything's intentional and everything's all aligned. You've got a better connection with the man above, with the universe, right? Because you've focused on spiritual alignment. So this is something that you need to have, right? You need to have faith. You need to have this spiritual side to you awakened, because when you have this spiritual side awakened, this is when you start to make better decisions. This is where you start to think twice before making a decision. Will this action actually serve me? Or will this allow me to go back to the lower self, which you don't want to do, right? It's a battle. You got to understand. And for me personally, as I mentioned before, I also go through this as well, right? I see the temptations. It's everywhere. So for me personally, my Instagram, I just create content. I don't consume content. I know how addictive it can be. And the moment you start looking at girls, that's what your feed's going to be, right? It's going to start throwing sort of provocative images of women or videos, right? So at the end of the day, I understand it's everywhere, right? It's everywhere. Even when you go for a walk, it's everywhere. Women are everywhere, lust is everywhere, temptation is everywhere. What really keeps me grounded is understanding the meaning of sexual transmutation. And let me give you a definition of what that is. It's where you transfer your sexual energy into creative things. It's where you transfer that sexual energy into purposeful habits, into things that you're striving towards, your goals, right? You move all this sexual buildup into things that actually serve you. Because the whole point of operating through your higher self is to maintain that identity, right, on a daily basis. Because the moment you slip up and you don't use that sexual energy in the right way, you're going to go back to your lower self. So for me personally, I use it to fuel my workouts. So I go to the gym, I train twice a day. I also do Muay Thai training twice a week. I use that sexual energy towards making content, towards my business, towards my personal development growth, and that's masculine mastery, right? It's an ongoing battle, I get it, but that's why you have to be on top of it on a daily basis. So essentially, you want to use those desires as fuel towards things that actually serve you. And that's why for me, I use all my sexual energy towards things that actually serve me, and that keeps me on the right path. That keeps me operating through my highest self. When the day ends, I write down all my wins. I see how productive my day was. And then when I write down all my wins, it boosts my self-esteem. I feel good about myself. And I know this is a daily thing that you need to focus on, right? So I strive towards being the best version of myself each and every day. And then I move on to the next day, right? And do the same thing. So I get it. It is a battle. But for me, the reason why it doesn't consume me or control me is because I channel it into the right things, right? By having purpose and direction. And that's why I say when a man doesn't have purpose and direction, that's when he falls into the temptation of lust, because there's nothing guiding you. You don't have that spiritual alignment. So you got to understand, when you don't have purpose and direction, you're always going to be driven by instant gratification as well, right? So understand that this will only weaken your masculine spirit. And that's why you feel those low frequency feelings, right? The shame, the guilt, the desire. And that's there for a reason. That's to say, hey man, you're out of alignment. You're operating through the devil. If you want to tap into God, you need to start to be driven by faith, discipline, purpose, and love. And you do this by having the right high frequency habits in your life. And when you do this, you start to feel internally fulfilled. You have that peace, gratitude, and self-love. And that's what helps you stay on the right path. So for me personally, I understand what you're saying, but at the end of the day, I'm able to channel it. I don't make a big deal about it. You got to understand that where you focus your energy towards, that's going to end up consuming you, right? That's going to be your reality. So if you focus all your attention and energy onto lust, onto women, in this day and age where it's very hard to avoid, and if you don't have control over it, it's going to end up controlling you. So the only way to move forward is rebuilding a 2.0 version of yourself, a man that operates with purpose, direction. He's in alignment with his highest self mentally, physically, and spiritually, vibrating on that higher frequency plane. And that will allow you to not fall into the temptations of lust, right? Engaging in that low frequency behavior. So I understand exactly where you're coming from. Me personally, I'm in a relationship and I can see temptation everywhere. But what helps me stay on the right track is making sure that I operate through that 2.0 version of myself, right? I make sure that I have the right daily habits. I'm in alignment each and every day, right? And it's all done through action. And when I do this, when I live this purposeful way of living, this intentional way, I focus on transferring that sexual energy towards things that serve me, not things that actually rob my energy and my vibration, right? So at the end of the day, understand that it's either going to keep consuming you, or if you want to get on top of it, you need to rebuild that 2.0 version of yourself, right? You need to be a man that operates through that 2.0 identity and maintains that 2.0 identity on a daily basis with the right daily habits that serve him. And when you do this, this is when you're able to not allow lust to get in the way. So understand that temptations are always going to be there, right? No one's perfect. But when you transfer that sexual energy towards things that serve you, that's the biggest difference, right? That's where you're able to stay on that right path and not go towards the lower self. So I hope this video has helped you. If you're new to my channel, hit the subscribe button. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, if you'd like me to make a response video, reach out on Instagram, drop the comments down below, or you can even send me an email. If you like the video, give it a like. It always helps the algorithm. But until next time, I'll see you in the next video. I hope you have a blessed and beautiful day. I hope your question got answered, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.